Alright, so the new moon is coming up on Saturday. And that's gonna be the new moon in Scorpio. And we're gonna see what comes up around you for the new moon cycle. I thought I'd do a deck I don't think we've done before. It's got a lot of very vibrant, colorful pictures. So I like this one. Super hard to shuffle though. Cards really love to stick together. Okay. I like all the blues on this one. So this card says Epiphany, and in this deck they're all kind of broken up in different categories, like what part of the self the card relates to. So it says higher self under there. Anyway, so I actually get a super good feeling right away coming off of this card. I feel like you're going into an even better time. And the last time we did this, I think, I was picking up more uncertainty coming off of the moon cycle for this past one. But I actually feel really good about this one. Much more, like, kind of a feeling of being sure of yourself, much more direction. And I get the sense things are really starting to crystallize. Like, more and more, it's like they're coming together. And even if it's not like, okay, I've 100% accomplished everything right now, like, you really see where you're going. You feel like you're building up. And things are really coming into clear view. You can see her with the eye here. Ooh, it's kind of Illuminati when I do that. But it's like, I feel like, she's got something right in her sights. And I think, as this next month or so goes on, you're going to feel more and more like things are clear, like you're more stable in them. Like, just really super optimistic, I think, coming up. And I think it's because things are starting to seem very realistic, like you can have an idea and be like, oh, like maybe I'll do this, maybe I'll do well, maybe whatever, but it's like, right now I feel like it's coming into focus, it's realistic, you're like, yeah, I can accomplish this, and I'm close. And I feel like you are getting very close to an accomplishment or the end of something. Maybe that's kind of the studying for the year. Because it feels like, by the end of this cycle next month, like, it feels like things are really kind of reaching a new level, like closing off a certain chapter you're working on right now, and it feels like, your goal's right there in front of you by sometime maybe in June. And I think that's gonna feel super affirming, validating, and it's really exciting to accomplish something, to kind of finish one part of everything you're working on right now in life. And I think that's also going to be just really good for your whole energetic system. I feel like it's super good in the root chakra, which, as I was saying, I think in the last one, that stability, power, sense of self, that real belief that you have in yourself. Like the mantra that goes with the root chakra is I am. So when you're feeling super powerful in the root chakra, you know who you are, you know what you're capable of, you know what you stand for, and you know that you're super solid in yourself, and no matter what happens, you've still got yourself, and you can really power through anything. And that's kind of the feeling that you're going to get as you move forward right now. Just really confident, sure of yourself, happy with yourself. And I feel like that's a big thing for you, you know, to genuinely maybe like yourself, to genuinely be like, yeah, I'm proud of the person I am right now. Could have been a lot of struggles with that in the past, so I feel like it's a really big thing for you just to be able to say, you know, I'm happy with myself and who I am right now. And that's definitely something that's getting stronger and stronger. And, you know, the root chakra, that's the first one. That's your foundation for everything. So the more that is powered, it's like the energy moves up the energetic system. So when you've got a really good base like that, it's really easy to spread it around and to be energized at all points, up even into the higher chakras. And I think there's a connection just between your root and your third eye as well, even though it's several chakras up there. Like the more confident you are, the more you're able to see. And if you were to lean into that third eye stuff we talked about coming up in the next couple of months, if you were to try to read energy, try to be intuitive in any way, I think it would come very naturally. Almost like, you know, from the root up, it just gives you that boost and gives you that foundation of confidence that you need to accurately, you know, feel stuff like that, make predictions, know, you know, feel that you know really what's going on and that you're seeing the truth of things. You know, it's good when that confidence starts at the root. And I do feel more and more like confidence, like maybe almost kind of cocky as you move up, as you move along the next couple of months. You know, becoming more confident in all your abilities and just knowing that you can do things. And I guess there's that little warning there if, you know, the next few months don't become overconfident to the point where you're showing off or don't believe that there's anything else to learn or anything. You know, you got to make sure to keep yourself grounded. Always, you know, keep yourself humble and everything. I feel like as everything moves into view, everything else, you know, becomes easier. And you feel good about all this sort of work and school and whatever stuff, everything else also, you know, your family, your social life, just, you know, your health, like everything else seems to flow more easily and become something that feels better, is easier to deal with, something you're motivated in. So I think you're just moving up towards everything. And hopefully this next moon cycle is just really something that solidifies for you that things are going well and that you're hitting all the goals that you want to be in this time. I'm going to do one more card and then, like I promised, we can do runes. So this is the new moon in Virgo. It says a time to give rather than take. Virgo is very about service and daily accomplishments and, you know, what we can do, how we can be of use, for other people, just to get things done. For ourselves, for the people we know on a wider scale. And again, I get super positive feeling here. And I think that comes from, like I said, being very good in yourself, getting this burst of confidence that I feel is coming. I feel like you're going to have so much more to give to others. And I think, for the next month or so, it's like you're actually entering a very selfless time. And, you're looking for what you can do for people that you're close to, or the people you think are very deserving of, your time, your attention, whatever it is. Like, you're riding this sort of boost, and suddenly you've got that energy to be like, okay, where can I give that excess energy out? Well, I just looked at my filming thing, and it said 11:11. I think that's a good sign for what I'm saying right now. Validating, that you're going to have that extra burst of energy to go around. So I feel like this is a good time for you to be really sensitive, and people are going to think you're sensitive and you're more attentive than usual. And you've definitely got a lot of opportunity, to make someone else feel really good, to listen. I feel like it's like you're really in a good position to offer your support. Like, you not even wait for it. You don't even have to wait for someone to ask. You're kind of putting it out there. You want to be helpful. You want to listen. You want to surprise people in this positive way. And that might not typically be your norm. I think you're very, focused on the stuff that you have to accomplish. And feeling, like you say, feeling very busy lately, and maybe not instigating a whole lot the past several months, as like you really focus in, try to get into this schedule you've got going on now. And like, it's not that you don't want to talk to people, it's not that you don't want to be attentive, you don't want to be a good friend or relative or whatever. It's just, really trying to make sure that you've been focused in, that you're not getting too distracted, losing your grasp on stuff, because I know you really want to get all this stuff done. You want to lock into that schedule, make sure you don't let anything slip. And if that's really what's been necessary to accomplish what you have so far, then I think, that's good thinking, as long as you don't overstress yourself. But I feel like, that's shifting over right now. And suddenly I get that impulse, like you want to give, you're looking for where you can give, you're looking for where you can do nice things, where you can show up for people when you haven't been able to recently. And I feel like, there's that space, that time where you're like, okay, now is kind of the moment to really be there for people, or to do things that you've wanted to do that you've put off in any way. And you see all this green energy, that's like heart chakra color. So I feel like really opening your heart and maybe being like, okay, what's my heart connection right now? What have I really been wanting to do? Where is that heart energy leading me right now? And that's an energy that really lets you be very good in your connections with people, connect to others, do good, interpersonally, or even on a community level. And it helps you express yourself. So I do think there's more expression coming up, even if you don't say it, because it's like, I feel like maybe sometimes you're trying to express something very positive, but it's like maybe words don't really come to you when you try to really express yourself sometimes. But it's like through your actions, you can show people that you care, that you're listening. When you show up for people, when you just let them talk, even when you do something nice, people know what you mean. You don't have to have all the right words. And Virgo does rule communication because it's ruled by the planet Mercury, as is Gemini, but Gemini is very based on like speaking and writing in that kind of communication, and Virgo is based on kind of getting stuff done in tasks and service. So as opposed to like the communication through words, it's more the communication through action. So I feel like your actions are going to matter even more than your words during this moon cycle. So if you want to show someone you care, make sure you're acting in a way that they know that you do. And I think people are going to feel your actions very strongly in the next month. Just, it's very energized and coming through your heart chakra. And I feel like even if it's like minimal words, whenever you try to express something, it's really going to be felt. And people are just going to view you as very considerate, even if you're not sure if you were doing a good job. Like, I think it's really going to be read that way. And it's kind of a relief. I think you hold a lot in your heart chakra, so when you do this, it kind of lets go of a weight and clears it in a nice way, and it might also make you more aware of your emotions and what you haven't really been tuning into this past while. It really gives you space to breathe out, and the more good that you do, I think the more relief you feel, and the more you're able to relax and connect to emotion and then let it go. And it's going to be rewarding, because I just feel like anything you do in this time is like doubly appreciated. People feel it so strongly. So it's a really good time for that and for reflection. And what do you want to do? What are your heart intentions? And even if you look back after and you're like, you really spent this time more focused on other people even than on yourself, don't feel bad about that. Like, I feel like it's a really nice change, actually, that's going to be good for you to engage in that way, which I feel like you often don't lean into. So yeah, you just gotta go with what feels right. And if it feels like the right moment to do something suddenly that you haven't got into yet, you haven't been doing, if you feel like reaching out to someone kind of out of the blue, like, I feel like this is a great time for all that. And, in the end, you're just going to feel good about yourself. Alright, now I'm going to do rune stones. Hopefully something interesting comes up. Sorry if that's like unbelievably loud through the camera. And they make a nice sound when you just kind of do this. So they've all got like a little symbol on them. It means something different. And because I can pretty much see most of the symbols, I'm going to close my eyes and pick one for you. Okay. Sorry, 1 second. Okay. So everything's kind of in my way of camera. So this is the symbol for flow. I kind of tend to turn it around while I'm talking, by the way, so if you see me keep flipping it around and around, kind of see what I get at different angles. And so I wasn't necessarily just asking about this next moon cycle, I just kind of really wanted to see what the runes would pick up overall right now. And yeah, right now it feels like a very odd spot. Like, you know, there's motion, but there's tension. And it's like, really, there's so much going on. Like, even if you're really focused on one thing, it's like something else can often be on your mind. And always, like, there's been a feeling like there's always something left to do. Something that's not fully being taken care of. And when you really, like, excel in one spot, it's like something else is still on your mind. Or you're wondering how it's going to go. Or, you know, you feel like it's being a little neglected. I guess there's just been a lot going on this past several months. Maybe for a long time, because I feel like there's been a very long time, maybe a couple years of being like, you know, you want to do more. You have these ideas. You have all these ideas of what you could be, what you could do. But, you know, they weren't coming together right at that time. But as that desire for change grew stronger, as that idea of everything that you could do, everything you could be grew stronger, it started to outweigh whatever was holding you back. And, you know, this desire for change, for more, for better, became the dominant energy. And it's almost like everything else that had been in your life up until that point started to seem very small, and like the energy that was shrinking and clinging on. And just this new idea of your life and of yourself just grew so much bigger in size that it's like everything else just became auxiliary. And I feel like, yeah, you really had to choose yourself in that moment over everything else. And even if you're like, okay, there's some good in the rest of the stuff that I've had going on, like, it doesn't compare to what I have in mind right now. So there was that decision to make a very big life change, or a series of life changes that ended up being very big. And, you know, I feel like, you know, most people probably, it's like you never fully escape doubt and being like, oh, what if I'd done something differently? What if I kept something else intact? You know, could it have worked? Could things have still been good if they'd gone a little differently? But I don't think it's a huge concern. It's kind of more like, you know, a pondering, like, I wonder. But I think overall, it's like feeling pretty confident in your decisions since then, and knowing that you're going in a very interesting new direction. And yeah, I feel like there's always going to be that little bit of wondering, of doubt, of, you know, especially maybe in moments where you're feeling a little low or restless, and you start to wonder, should I have kept something else around? Should I have done this differently? But it's like, well, you didn't, right? You can't go back and change all that. There's a reason you made all these decisions that you knew were gonna really be beneficial. We're gonna rise you up. You know, that voice in your head that made you make those changes, it was leading you in that direction for a reason. So you should never go, oh, what if? You know, what if doesn't matter. That's not what you did. This is what you did. And you did it for a reason, and you should just know that it was all to bring everything into a really good, you know, flow state, and to be the best that it could be in your life at this moment. Because, you know, even if you had to make some concessions or whatever to be here, I think what you got is so much more than what you lost. And even if it's not perfect, you know, even if you're like, oh, I can do better in certain areas of my life, or it's missing a few parts, I really feel like there's so much time for that. And you're in the best place that you can be in right now, and you've always got to do the best that you can do for yourself right in the moment. like, yeah, maybe there's other cool things you can do in life, other areas of your life you want to build up, but you can't do everything at once, right? You'd just be way too cluttered. You'd never get anything done if you tried to do everything at once. So it's like, before you can get to that other stuff, you have to build a couple of things up at a time. And I think you're in a really good spot with all that stuff that you chose to work on. So really, don't have doubt about that you made a mistake or anything, because you made the choices that you made, and this is where you are now. And I think overall it's in a much more powerful place than you were a while ago, especially like a few years ago. Yeah, I feel like there was very low energy for a while there, like you really kind of bottomed out energetically, and kind of like, over the last several years it sort of went down, 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 and at some point it hit a bottom state, and then maybe, I don't know, like 2 years ago or so, I feel like there were these inklings of something new, and your energy started to gather again, and started to come together, started to form into what would become the impetus for all that change, and you started more of an upward track that really came to life some point last year. And I feel like that's just a really powerful thing for you to do. And hopefully you felt powerful in it, because it feels like that a very strong surge of like root energy that just grew and overpowered everything and broke through all kind of the barriers that you had at the time. And I don't think you should ever miss what you lost, because I feel like you got so much in return, I also feel like, there's a message of don't feel bad about relaxing, just about enjoying yourself, taking time to actually just, do things that are relaxing, do things that are enjoyable, spend time just, enjoying yourself. I think that's super necessary to have that, downtime of just chilling, relaxing by yourself, doing some entertaining, low-key stuff, or, spending time with just, maybe one or two people at a time that have a really fun, relaxing energy that, some people can boost your energy, and they actually see them, and it gives you a lot, as opposed to, so many people I feel like will just drain your energy to be around them. I feel like that with a lot of people, there's a couple people who give energy, and a lot of people that kind of just drain it. So yeah, don't feel bad about spending, as much time as you can trying to enjoy yourself. Definitely doesn't have to be all pushing yourself 100% of the time. There's nothing negative about taking time to just have enjoyment. And that's going to energize you for everything that you have to do. And I feel like maybe in this next new moon cycle, maybe you're leaning more into that and realizing that. And I think that kind of enjoyment comes a little easier. Again, I feel like accomplishment coming up. I'm kind of holding this sort of low, aren't I? I feel like accomplishment, good sense of self, feeling like something's getting done, and I feel like sometimes you get put really, you can be hard on yourself, not accomplishing enough things, not getting stuff done in a timeline, not doing stuff that you said you would, like, you don't like to have that kind of disorganization. You like to know that you've kind of checked everything off your list. You like to be organized, you like to feel efficient. And I feel that just really feels really good, like in your brain, when you know that you've been checking stuff off. I feel like things coming up are pretty good with that. Just you have to make sure that you're not pressuring yourself for all this. You're not living like checkmark to checkmark. You gotta not make everything about accomplishment, about getting everything done. at a certain point, it's almost like you can get caught up on, like this idea of how much you can do, and it's almost like you're having a little competition with yourself, and then when you get too into that, you block everything else out, and you forget, like, all this other important stuff, to socialize, to relax, to do things that you'd meant to do, but that were just more fun. Like, you gotta make sure that you're not getting single-minded and you're remembering to do other important stuff, because it's not just like accomplishing tasks or all work stuff or all whatever. It's not just like work, school, gym, or whatever that you have to do in a certain order every day or something. Like, there's other important stuff for you socially, for your mental health, for your physical health. So just remember to, like, add that to your list of things that you want to make sure you're paying attention to and that you're doing good maintenance on. Because that's just as important as everything else, right? You can't just do all work stuff and then you're going to have no energy to get anything done, or you're going to make yourself really stressed out or unhappy. So definitely make sure you got that balance going. I feel like I already looked at it in that direction. There we go. Yeah, I do feel a very effective energy coming up. And it's like it's going to start to feel like some of the pressure is coming off. It's just you always have to try not to be hard on yourself. And not to, like, psych yourself out. Maybe kind of what I was talking about before, of thinking too much of the past, or thinking maybe about, like, arguments you've had with people. Like, negativity, I think, can draw you down very, very fast. And, that probably goes for most people. But I feel like you especially, I don't know. It's that feeling of, like, when you get drawn into a really negative or petty, angry state, like, it can just completely plummet your energy and your well-being. And it can take hold on you very strong. And I feel like that's kind of one of those things you're really supposed to work on in this lifetime. Like, that propensity to just fall right into anger, spite. And also definitely if, like, having explosive emotions, or really playing the victim too much. I feel like sometimes, maybe something is more someone else's fault, and it's not that you're wrong about that, but instead of confronting it in a healthy manner, either you kind of block people out and ignore them, or you get very confrontational, kind of angry, and it's like a soul lesson for you in this life. Whether you feel that's really you now, or it was you more when you were younger, or some point in your past, like, that's definitely something that you've been meant to rein in and learn how to control your emotions, calm down, how to speak reasonably to people, and to not let that sudden emotion just dominate your whole life. Because I feel like when that happens, you act very hastily sometimes, and you can ruin things, you can really upset people, damage relationships, throw things off in your own life as a result. And for some reason that's coming up now, so maybe it's like the vestiges of that. Like, if you feel they're coming up now or in the future, really, really bring awareness to that. Try to bring calmness. Even if someone else is being unreasonable, try to see their side, to see where they're coming from. And, use that to think about how to more calmly manage the situation, and how to not make someone else feel bad. Because I feel like there's been a tendency, even if it was much earlier in your life, towards, like, hair trigger temper. And I feel like it's coming through. It's like that's one of the few things that can really ruin a situation, ruin where you are right now, is if you let that sort of energy, that mindset, that thinking take over. So if you find yourself falling into thoughts like that, getting mad at people from the past, or getting mad at people over little things, You know, remembering arguments or getting pissed off at something someone's going to do coming up. Like, really remember that when that happens, I feel so strongly that's a test for you. Because that's something you're really supposed to be working on. So when you're like, why would someone do that? They're doing that because you're meant to be working on this. They're meant to trigger you. And you've really got to work strongly on communication, work on your throat chakra, how you talk to people, how you regulate your emotions and express yourself. And once you work through that, and once you get really good at controlling those reactions and finding what, problem solving ways to deal with these situations and with people who have a tendency to get on your nerves, once you really start to handle that and master it, those situations happen less and less frequently. They stop because you don't need them to happen anymore. You've learned something, you've grown from it, you've mastered that skill. So, for some reason, that's coming up right now, so just maybe a really good thing to keep in mind. Going forward, if it's just something, you've been thinking about negative stuff, or if someone's about to do something that pisses you off, something to keep in mind for sure. Because it's only those kind of negative, thoughts that you let take over, those really negative tendencies to overreact and to close yourself off to someone else's point of view. That's one of the few things that can get in your way at this point. Because you're so in control of what happens next, as long as you can control yourself and not let small things be blown out of proportion. Not let, everything get away from you because you just don't know how to regulate. As long as you're in control of yourself, really, there's nothing that you can't do right now. So there's almost maybe a little level of stoicism that you should be leaning into right now. Not letting things get to you, not letting things work you up. Focusing on, growing your energy, your strength. Focusing on the things that are important to you. Because especially, if someone's just being an asshole, pissing you off, irritating you, why are you focused on them anyway? Focus on positive things that you're working on. Focus on positive relationships in your life. People that bring you up and encourage you. If someone's really acting badly, don't give them your energy. Try to resolve the problem, and if they're not working with you on that, then that's their problem. Let it go, let them calm down. And, you can solve these problems when that person is ready to meet you on your level, and you want to be on a really high level, right? You vibrate high. You take the high road. And you let people meet you there. You don't sink to their level. And I feel like you've had a lot of very provocative people around you in the past or kind of dragging you down, and maybe that's why you feel like you never accomplished as much as you did, at other points in your life, or you wanted to as much as you wanted to at other points in your life. I've been talking a little too long here. Because, when you just keep letting people get to you and sinking down, you're not going up. You've got to go, okay, I'm going up, and you can come up with me if you want to sink down into all your most negative instincts. I'm not giving you attention, I'm not going to meet you there. And I think that's part of the flow that's coming up here, You want to, the direction you want to flow in. You don't let other people interrupt that flow over something that is not beneficial to you and is not important in your life. Because there's a lot of important stuff going on right now, and you want to put your energy there. Anyway, that's that. If you really like runes, I can incorporate them more in the future. I do like the little shuffling noise they make. I'm sure you'd like them if you ever pick them up. They're super smooth and nice. They've got a great kind of feel. Anyway, let me know what you think. And that's all.